All right, YouTube, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel. It is Friday. Happy Friday to everyone out there. We have a nice 10-game NBA slate to dive into in today's video. Like we always do, I'm going to dive into each and every one of these games. I'll give you my prediction on the side. I'll give you my prediction on the total. Talk about any other plays like player props that we like in the game as well. But as always, guys, keep an eye down on the pinned comment. That'll take you to my final play, so I'm actually rolling with myself. If that does interest you, all free down in the pinned comment. All right, YouTube, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel. I tell you guys I'm a dummy all the time. They don't suck. They've just been sucking. Get them down to -3, 4 more juice than Jose Canseco in his prime. Tell me you're new without telling me you're new. So don't go jumping down my throat in the comments, right? If you want to fade me, or if you do want to ride me, this still leaves a bad taste in my mouth, right? And remember, more chins, more wins. In terms of our final plays yesterday, we do have an interesting night. Our slimy parlay, that does not come through, but Kevin Huerter, we had him over 11.5 points, and then we had an alternate line for him to go for 15 plus for plus 140, and he has, what, 25 points against his old squad. A good look there in Kevin Huerter, so at least that's a little inspirational to pull into this nice, fine Friday here, but yeah, that parlay, I mean, the Warriors come through for us, the Knicks, Charlotte, really? Yikes, that was an unfortunate one. We don't have a ride of the day from yesterday. Things were a little bit crazy with March Madness and whatnot, but guys, go ahead and get those hashtag ride of the days down in the comments. I'll jump on board with one person's play, give you a shout out in the next video, win or loss. You also get shouted out over on my Twitter/X, which just popped up right here, EvGuyBoston, if you guys do want to follow me there. And if you win, we continue to ride with your plays. If you do lose, unfortunately, got to drop the womp womp on the soundboard, but you still get the shout out there, and you definitely help out a ton of people in the comments. We've had some people that don't get selected for the ride of the days, but are helping out tons and tons of people find some bangers down in the comments. So yeah, go ahead and drop those hashtag ride of the days down there. But what do you say we go ahead and dive into this slate? Started off with kind of a weird one. Let's go ahead and jump into it. Hit that like button. Hit that subscribe button. Starting off with Washington taking on Orlando. I say it's a weird one because, honestly, at the beginning of the year, you would have been like, yeah, fade Washington, Orlando all day long. But this Orlando team has just been so tough to read, and now Washington, weirdly enough, has won 5 of their last 10 games, which it's only a 50-50 split there, but it's like compared to what they were doing, that's way better. So this isn't the easiest one to break down. I would say that this is probably a game in which I leave off my card today, but overall, if we do look into it, there's a couple things I want to note. So this Orlando team still maintains a good defense. I know they've been up and down, and I said you can't trust them multiple times, right? But they still do play a very good defense. But from above the break, they've been struggling, and that's where Washington, and when I say struggling, just from a field goal percentage perspective, they do push guys off of above the break shots, so that's definitely a benefit for Orlando. But Washington, in their last 10 games here, second in terms of above the break frequency. Orlando allowing over nearly a 38% field goal percentage success rate to their opponents. So I do think Washington can put up some points here, but I think Orlando's defense is going to make plays when it counts, and I would assume that that's the case. Washington runs the fifth most amount of pick and roll. Are they good at converting those pick and roll opportunities, especially from the ball handler standpoint? No. They run the 5th most frequency, like I said, but 5th worst in terms of field goal percentage, effective field goal percentage, 6th worst in terms of score percentage, and Orlando's defense against pick and roll is very good. So all of a sudden I think, okay, outside of maybe hitting, those 3-point shots, catch and shoots and stuff, I do think Orlando kind of dominates this one. So I'm going to lean towards Orlando -8, but like I already mentioned, I don't think that this is something I want to get there with. It's a bad team in Washington. Maybe this is a really good get-right spot for Orlando, but they're still banged up. Cole Anthony may not play in this one. Corey Joseph, the starting point guard now. Washington also banged up, but Middleton should be back at least. So it's just kind of a funky one, man. I don't mind an over, though. That's kind of what I was saying with it. I think Washington may be able to put up some points just from outside, and their defense stinks enough that, like I said, this probably is a get-right spot for Orlando's offense to some degree. So I'll lean Orlando in the over, but I'd be surprised if that's going to be something that we find on our final ticket today. In terms of what we have from a player prop perspective, it's kind of a weird one, but Wendell Carter Jr. keeps popping up to record a block. He's had a block in 6 of his last 10 games. When he plays head-to-head against this Washington team, he's had a block in both games this season. So, hell, why not go out there and throw a block against Washington, kind of middle of the pack in terms of allowing blocks to center. So, yeah, for plus money, maybe that's a flyer. But again, weird game. I'm being transparent with you guys. Keep an eye on the pinned comment to see if we end up rolling with anything. All right, San Antonio taking on Philadelphia. Obviously, a ton of injuries on both sides, injuries. Philadelphia, we'll just say the starting lineups. That's probably giving us a better idea of who's playing than the long list of injuries, right? So Jared Butler, Grimes, Edwards, Brissett, and Yabusele for Philadelphia, and then Paul, Castle, Vassell, Barnes, and Sohan here for San Antonio. If you were to look at this one and just kind of put it out on the court and say, okay, well, where is San Antonio going to shoot from? It's going to be in the paint. Last 10 games, they've been shooting the 5th most frequency from in the paint. Philadelphia's in the paint defense really isn't all that tremendous. But then you flip it over and say, okay, well, where's Philadelphia been shooting from? Injuries and all, they've been shooting the 4th most above the break threes in their games, not necessarily field goal percentage, success rate, but in terms of just frequency, quantity, 4th most over the last 10 games. San Antonio's defense from above the break isn't all that great. So that reads to me as one team is going to have the easy time making threes. One team's going to have the easy time making twos. If we're trading threes for twos here, obviously one team is going to come out on top there, and I think it's ultimately too many points to be giving Philadelphia. Now, San Antonio, I've been kind of impressed with some of their games. Like they dominated Dallas, I should say that, in a game in which, I did think that they would beat them, but the game before that, they got smoked. So they bounced right back. These are the last 3 wins. New Orleans, they won. They covered in, right? And then New York really was the one where it's like, okay, well, that's a big deal. No Jalen Brunson, so I think that's worth noting. But overall, they've been to some degree impressive. But Philadelphia, they've played a couple games close, right? Like in their last 5 games here, they've covered 3 of them. They've covered 4 of their last 6. They'll grind it out. I think 6 points is just a little bit too much. If you are on San Antonio, I really don't mean to talk you off it because it's really coming down to me thinking Philadelphia may make their shots, okay? Overall, right? So it's like if they make their shots, I think they cover this one. If they don't, then yeah, they're probably screwed because San Antonio should be getting easy buckets down low and inside and whatnot. So take that with a grain of salt. Give me Philadelphia plus 6 points. I honestly would even say if this spread was flipped in the home and away, maybe even was flipped, it could ultimately change things like right away. So like I'm saying, guys, there are some weird spots on today's slate. Like the next game, we're going to talk about a freaking 20-point spread, but it is what it is. We have to go over, right? In terms of what I like from a player prop perspective, we'll get to the total in just a second. I don't mind Quentin Grimes here over 4.5 assists. There's some 5.5s out there, but you can still get 4.5 for like minus 120. He's hit that in 6 of his last 10 games. It's not exactly this like dream matchup against San Antonio. They're just middle of the pack in terms of preventing assists. But what I really do like is that he's a spot up shooter, and also 15% of his points come in isolation. Those are 2 spots in which San Antonio actually hasn't been like terrible at defending, right? They're a lot, softer against, I guess, catch and shoot, they can't allow plenty of, but still, on the season, they've been kind of good at defending those, so if he's not going to get his normal looks, I expect him to have to facilitate a little bit more, and like I said, he's been passing the ball in his last few games here, 8 potential assists, 7 potential assists, 9 potential assists, 9 potential assists, 9 potential assists. All that should amount to like 4 or 5 assists as a floor, and now in a matchup like this, and one in which I think, he's not going to get the normal looks that he will offensively, I think it should account for a couple more potential assists. So Quentin Grimes over 4.5 assists is something that I'm considering here too. 238 seems a little bit high. I know I just ranted and raved about how Philly should hit the threes and San Antonio should be able to score down low, but the pace these 2 teams play at, I put them kind of in the middle of the pack, and honestly, neither one of which strike me as the most consistent team overall. Like you see some high-scoring games from San Antonio, okay, well then they'll drop 109 on you. Same thing with Philadelphia, right? They have a 137 game against the Rockets. They follow that up with a 100 game against the Thunder, albeit really good defense, but still not very consistent. So I'm going to lean under 238.5 in this one. All right, real quick, guys, before we do jump into the rest of the games, I want to talk to you about sleeper picks. You hear me talk about them all the time on the channel because they have a great deal going on right now. First off, you get this KD 0.5 point score. I think he'll score 1 point tonight, but you're also getting the play $5, get $55 promo as well. Yeah, just a $5 entry, you're going to get 11x that in return. Very, very cool, guys. If you guys don't know what Sleeper Picks is, all it is a DFS player prop based app in which you pick more or less based on player projections. In this case, we probably pick more than 0.5 points for KD. You're a psycho if you pick less than. You throw that into an entry, 2 or more players into an entry. The more you do win, the more you get paid out. And it's really cool. They have their own multiplying system, so each and every payout is dynamic based on the players that you have in and the projections that you have in your slip. So go ahead and check it out, guys. Again, play $5 as a new customer, get $55 back. Kind of a no-brainer. That link will be down below in the description as well as the pinned comment. Go check out Sleeper. Let's jump back into these games. All right, kind of already hinted at this one. OKC minus 19.5 here, taking on Charlotte. Charlotte on the back-to-back. OKC looks a little bit healthier here. Still no Dort, still no Jalen Williams, but Shea is looking like he is back. I don't think I touched this one myself, but there is obviously one right side to this one, right? You have one of the worst teams in the league going up against the best, arguably best team in the league. And sure, that is a massive, massive number, but everything points towards OKC in this spot. Charlotte, yes, they just beat the Knicks, and I guess we can clap it up and say good game for them. But overall, do they really do that 2 games in a row? And for what it's worth, OKC, even with some of these big numbers, they've been covering it. So yeah, this is ultimately, I know I keep saying it, I sound like a broken record, but I don't decide this late, guys. This is probably another stay away type spot for me, but man, oh man, if you wanted to get involved, maybe a toss in like an OKC minus 4.5 in some sort of parlay or something. 19.5 is ludicrous. Like, that's crazy to me. I know there'll be some psychos out there that like it because Charlotte's so bad and whatnot, and you'll roll with it. But still, imagine saying, okay, I'm only going to be happy. I'm only going to win if you win by 20 or more points. That just seems crazy to me. But it's there for a reason. In terms of what we have from a total, I think OKC puts up a big number here. Charlotte, yes, they're on a back-to-back, and yes, I give Charlotte's defense, at the rim and whatnot credit sometimes, but not on a back-to-back, not against OKC. Like, that's an entirely different beast. Shea's playing as well, so as much as I would sit here and be like, yeah, I mean, Charlotte's interior defense, like I've been saying, I feel like I'm the only one giving their interior defense any credit lately, right? I just can't do it against a team that's going to overwhelmingly score or should overwhelmingly score down low for them, right? One spot that I considered, and I don't even know what the line is as of right now. I don't think I'm going to get there with it. Let's see. I feel like I've said I don't think I'm going to get there multiple times. Yeah, we're still waiting on some lines for this, but I was considering Mark Williams' rebounds, and for the sole reason that I don't think there's going to be a lot of misses on the OKC side, but they shoot so frequently in the paint that I could see the center on the other team having a lot more rebound opportunities. Do you know what I mean? So that would be something that I consider, but give me OKC in terms of leans. OKC minus the points. Their team total over. I'd probably just rather their team total over, if anything, in this one, rather than having to win by 20, because obviously if they're going to go in there and win by 20, they'll probably have to put up somewhat of a respectable number, and right now, team total, you're looking at over 120 and a half. Sure, that's probably a better move than laying 20 points. But then Mark Williams is someone that I would consider solely because I think he's going to have a little bit more opportunity, but it could be a blow. We could see like 20 minutes out of the dude. Minnesota taking on New Orleans. Last time these two teams faced off, we liked Minnesota, and New Orleans ultimately won the game as 13.5-point dogs. Do I think that happens 2 times in a row now? Because that was, on Wednesday that they played? No, I think Minnesota gets back to winning basketball. They had won 8 straight games, 8 straight games, I believe, and then dropped one to Indiana, very close game. Dropped one against New Orleans, very close game. So I think that they should, or I hope that they do return to form in this one. It was like the Anthony Edwards show, and then nobody afterwards in that one. And New Orleans had, I think it was, nearly 30 points from Zion. CJ McCollum had a decent game. They had some good bench points. So, yeah, it was kind of some weird things happened in that one. Obviously, as a 13.5-point dog, if you win, you played really well that game, so I'll give him credit, but I think that this one just flips on its head. I still do like the over that hit in that game as well. I think it was 119 to 116, 115, something like that. I think that we see something very similar score-wise to that again, but kind of on the inverse in terms of who's dominating. It's probably going to be Minnesota. Now, the way that I'd probably do that, I mentioned the strategy with OKC, right? That's still a lot of points. I think Minnesota, yes, I'll lean 13.5 because I don't think that I think they're going to be fired up against a team that just beat them overall, right? And, now it's like a get-back time. But I would probably consider their team total over before saying go win by 14 points because this New Orleans team, Yeah, for what it's worth, they do like to shoot inside. Zion had a good game, and that's not surprising. Like I said, they like to shoot inside. In Minnesota, I've been saying it all year long, even though they have Gobert and Randall, who's strong. Like, this is a perimeter defense. Some numbers indicate that that's right. Some numbers would say, no, they're good interior. Like, no. I truly believe, and especially watching a lot of them, that this is a team that can play some good perimeter defense, but when you get inside, they can struggle. And we saw it. Zion had a good game against them. What does Zion do? Get to the paint, right? So I do think the Pelicans can kind of stick around, especially with a 13.5-point spread. You know what I mean? So if I were to roll with this, I'm just hoping for 120 from Minnesota. I'm going to go over 119.5 from them in terms of their team total. Taking a peek at it from a player prop perspective, I'm going to go back to our guy. We leaned towards it, and I almost locked it in last game, but didn't ultimately roll with it, and I'm glad I didn't because he didn't play that many minutes. Didn't the best game. Jaden McDaniels here, over 21.5 PRA. It should be the type of game, at least in my opinion, where this guy does a lot of everything. Mixing it up with this New Orleans team. So yeah, I'm going to lean towards him. Much of what I said just 2 days ago in terms of why I like him. Like, this should be a spot where, yes, Ant's going to do the scoring, or they can attack the paint, the perimeter and all that. But Jaden McDaniels should be involved. Maybe a couple one-pass assists, get a few rebounds. He can also be the guy that hits one of those corner threes or two. So yeah, I do like the spot for him to go out there and get at least 22 PRAs. Strongly considering that for a player prop today in our final plays. All right, Miami taking on Houston. If you look at the head-to-head in this one, dating all the way back to 2021, Miami has won and pretty much covered. I think they're like 7-2 in the last 9, but they've won 9 straight games against this Houston team. Houston's playing much better. They've now, this season, and this year, current date, not 2021, have won 8 straight games. They've covered in, I believe, 6 of those 8, around that. Miami has now lost 9 straight, so you sit here and it's like, why is this line only, and I do say only, 5.5, especially throwing the fact that Amen Thompson may be making his return to the lineup today. He's listed as probable. This is a weird one because everything, and Andrew Wiggins on the other side is questionable. He may not play. Like, this is a really weird one to me because everything screams Houston. They're much better in terms of rebounding. Number 1 rebounding team in the league this year, going up against a team that's bottom 4 in their last 3 games rebounding. Houston, who likes to score in the paint. Miami's defense in the paint hasn't been all that tremendous. In fact, in the last 3 games, dead last in points in the paint allowed. Now, they played Memphis, New York, and Detroit. Not exactly the easiest of schedule in terms of defending points in the paint, but still, stats are stats, facts are facts here. And Miami, I don't really know where their offense would come from. Like, that game against Detroit was the first time that offense looked viable in a long time. They hadn't scored 110 plus in 9 games prior to scoring 113. It's not even like they blew that number away. Whereas Houston's offense, in their last 5 games here, 111, 133, 117, 144, 116. Are they playing great defenses? No, I wouldn't say that, but they're playing a hell of a, sample size of better basketball. So is there something weird here that I'm missing in this one? Because this seems like an absolute smelly trap, but I might just fall right into it. Houston minus 5.5 is what I'm going to look at here. It should be a good spot for Houston, but at the very least, what I would say is I'm almost interested I see what you guys think in the comments too. I know Miami's defense had been playing good and all that, but I kind of like where Houston's offense is at. We have a low number here. We did this against Orlando and it worked out just fine. What about a Houston team total over 108.5? That way we don't have to worry about the 5.5 trap line, right? And we can kind of call BS on what I would deem Miami's offense, not exactly this striking offense that it looked like just like 5 days ago. So that may be a little sneaky spot that we get involved with there. Houston over 108.5, over 109.5, depending on where you can get it. Could be something there. But yeah, I'm all Houston in this one, even from the total perspective. I'd leave Miami off of it because, again, they have just been too inconsistent from an offensive perspective to really, for me to even consider putting my hard-earned bread on. You know what I mean? Like, I really have close to no interest in that. Now, player props. I think that we would be okay getting back to now taking Jalen Green's under in assists, as long as we do see Amen Thompson get ruled in. But right now, under 3.5 assists, you get plus money for, which I don't think is a bad move. He had been crushing the line and all that, but that was either with Fred VanVleet out or Amin Thompson out. With these guys playing, so with both Van Vliet, let's see if we can pull that up. So with Van Vliet and Amin Thompson this year, he's hit the under in 65% of games so far this year. On the road, under in 71% of games this year with those two guys playing. So could be a consideration there for some plus money, but 3.5, you can almost like stumble into 4 assists, just get 1 per quarter. So take it with a grain of salt, but I do think that we're playing the Jalen Green assist game fairly well. 2 guys that should absorb some of his assists, even his potential assists, playing would result in him getting a far fewer assists, I would assume. Dallas taking on Detroit, and man, I hate to be liking a lot of favorites today. I know we lean towards Philly, but I don't really see why Detroit shouldn't take it to this Dallas squad, who is obviously banged up and beaten and bruised, right? And they don't have the size. Like, Jalen Duren should demolish down there, right? I mean, PJ Washington being the 4. They have Kai Jones, who I think is Kai Jones 7? Maybe he's like 6'10", 6'11", something like that, but he's not exactly the beefiest guy. Like, this should be a good spot for Detroit to be able to get into the paint and dominate. So yeah, I do like Detroit solely because they can really control the paint. And you guys know me, I say it all the time. Yes, back in my day, I was a shooter, but I think NBA basketball, even though it's lost its touch with the 3, if you dominate the paint, you can kind of control the pace of the game. And it's not like Detroit doesn't have the shooters on the outside, right? So I sit here and I'm like, well, yeah, Dallas, honestly, I would give them credit that they're still a decent perimeter defense, but Detroit's interior should really, really be able to wreak havoc down there. So yeah, I like Jalen Duren, probably double-double. I also don't mind Asir Thompson and taking a peek at his points, which let's get an updated line as of right now, because I don't think we looked at this one yet. I think his points, I want to say it was like 9.5 or it's 10.5. I don't mind his over. I think that he's going to get a decent amount of opportunities down there as well. But Jalen Duren definitely, I think, should, like, there's guys that are just animalistic, and Jalen Duren is one of those guys that just gets the ball like from a putback or an offensive rebound and just beasts it. And I don't see Kai Jones or PJ Washington being the guy that says, no, not today, Jalen. You know what I mean? So yeah, I like that spot. I would also pivot to something that I guess we could say has worked out a decent amount for this year. Not exactly like a go. We've only, I think, hit it once, but it was a similar type of a spot, and it was taking a peek at Tobias Harris in these spots where teams really, really do struggle in the interior, right? So Tobias Harris over in assists, because like all of Tobias Harris's assists, which is just a fun fact, I guess, like so many of his assists come right at the paint. So if he's going to pass the ball, a lot of his assists come in the paint or at the rim. I believe it is 31% at the rim and then 26% in the paint area. So what is that, 57% of his assists? Nothing even compares to it outside of that. And you can get, it's something crazy like that. I think it's like 56, 57%. You can want him to get 2 assists. I think his line's like 1.5. So something else I would consider, because he can like stumble, like I said, into an assist like accidentally. Actually, let's pull up in terms of him of points in the paint. Let's see if we can see what his assist line is when there is a points in the paint. I think we can find them. Let me pull it up. I'll get the facts for you. Boom, here we go. Of teams that rank in the bottom 10 in terms of defending the interior, right? He has hit in 2 of every 3 games. So 2 out of 3, 20 of 30, 66.7% of his games, he's had at least 2 assists in. Kind of a weird one, but I don't mind it. So give me Detroit, Isaiah Stewart. I don't mind him either. But Jalen Duren, maybe that was like a Freudian slip or something. Isaiah Stewart. But Tobias Harris over an assist. In terms of what we have from a total in this one, this is another one where I think I look at the team total side, and we do get comments sometimes being like, enough of these team totals, just pick the total. Like if and I hate that I have to defend myself or defend the reasoning, but like it's all about becoming smarter in this industry, right? And if you can't understand my logic, I'd rather explain it so maybe next time you do understand it. It's a few of you in the comments, not like the majority, but if I see this game going one way for one team, like you could almost be attaching a ball and chain to your ankle by including another team. And we're talking about it before it happens, so who knows if anything even comes true, right? But it's like, if I like the over because I think, Detroit should be able to score well, what if Dallas is a terrible shooting night? I never really liked them from the beginning. All you did was attach a ball and a chain saying, hey, do your job now, come on, at least contribute. Whereas if you just split it up and say, I think this is a good matchup for Detroit, we can just take Detroit's team total over and not even have to worry about Dallas, right? So over 118.5 for Detroit team total is what I would like more in this game, rather than including Dallas and having to hope for them to piece piece some points together and whatnot to contribute towards an over. So yeah, there's nothing wrong with, I know it's not like the side in total, but there's nothing wrong with chiseling away at your slab of stone to get it to a play that kind of fits your narrative a little bit better than just saying, okay, well, that's the total. It is what it is. We got to roll with it. No, that's a terrible mindset. So yeah, is what it is. We're going to go Detroit team total over. All right, Utah taking on Boston. I want to start with a player prop in this one. It's going to be Drew Holiday over points plus assists. Now, Jaylen Brown listed as out in this one. I think that helps out here because then Sam Hauser now moves into the starting lineup, and I think it really helps Drew Holiday's assist potential here because now he has Derek White, Jason Tatum, and Sam Hauser, and Porzingis around him. And the way Drew Holiday gets assists is in the spot up. He'll just throw it to a guy, and the Celtics chuck like they do, okay? So I think that he should stumble into some accidental assists here. I like his assists. It's over 3.5, but I think points plus assists you're getting better value on because I think he could hit a few threes himself today too. So whether it's assists or points plus assists, Drew Holiday, a decent chance to be a final play today. But I think his over 3.5 assists was fairly juicy when I looked at it earlier. So if it's past like minus 160, I mean, I'd still play it there, but you guys know me. Like, I'll pay a lot of juice as long as I think it's deemed like for example, I'll pay minus 160 if based on my numbers and whatnot, this thing in my dumb brain should be minus 180. I still feel like I have 20 cents of value, even though most of the industry would be like, oh, that's too juice and all that. It's like, to me, it's all about what I think it should be and what it is, and that middle ground is the value. So I'd still play it there, but if it's past that or crazily past that, probably not. I'd pivot to his points plus assists. But either way, I do like Drew Holiday today. Probably my favorite spot overall in this one. In terms of what we have, I want to go to the total next. I don't mind an over in this spot. The Celtics team, as much of a good defense as they are, they've actually kind of struggled in the perimeter, and now in their last 3 games, small sample size. I feel like it's another unique thing that I do in my research and whatnot, include like last 3 games, whereas most people are looking at last 5, last 10. I like to look at last 3 because, yeah, it's small sample size, but talk about recent history, right? And they're allowing the 5th most points from 3. Utah likes to shoot the 3 ball. Now, you look at Utah, and it's going to be like, okay, well, they're really injured, right? I think no Lauri Markkanen today, but no John Collins, I think, is still out, but you do have Collier, you do have, I want to say Keontae George, you have Colin Sexton, Walker Kessler's down there, he's not a 3 shooter, but obviously they're big men. I think Utah has enough in this one to keep it not close. I think the Celtics win this one, and I'm a big Celtics fan, so trust me on this one. I think that this is probably a spot in which I would never consider Celtics minus the 13.5 on the road. Utah is honestly going to be my lean. I'll sound the psycho alert alarm, but I'm also a Celtics fan, like I said, so I'm biased to some degree. I'm not making this a final play, but Utah has a couple different advantages that I would honestly say. First and foremost, they can cover the pick and roll phenomenally, which is interesting, but that is, as a really bad defense, very good against the pick and roll. Celtics love to run the pick and roll. They do kind of defend the isolation weirdly, but what I'll say is they force teams out of isolation situations. Celtics love to run isolation, so if Utah, once they get into the isolation, yeah, they're cooked, but they do kind of prevent teams from getting into the isolation, and they're also the number 1 team in effective field goal percentage against the pull-up jumper. The Celtics are the number 1 score percentage team in the pull-up jumper, so there are some things where I'm like, yeah, damn, Utah kind of like can hang here, and we just saw these 2 teams play in early March, and Utah was 16-point dogs. It was in Boston. They lost by, 6 points? I think Celtics can beat them by double digits, but I think this is probably a Utah plus 13.5 spot. I don't think I'd take it. That's just me being biased, but I'll sound it again. It is pretty crazy to sound the psycho alert alarm, or just crazy to have this pick. That's why we sound the psycho alert alarm. But man, oh man, I think Utah can somewhat hang in this game. But just take that with it. I'd rather go with my Drew Holiday take than say, hey, go take Utah plus 13.5, right? In terms of a total, I know I was gonna say let's start with the total. I like the over overall. That's what I was getting at. I said let's start with the over and then just went into Utah. I think Utah again can probably put up somewhat of a respectable number here. Like, even if they get to 110 today, that's them doing their job. You know what I mean? The Celtics should be able to go out there and get 120 then via the spread and whatnot. So, yeah, I'm going to lean towards the over. And I also didn't mention it. Celtics, last 10 games, slowest team in the league. Utah, number 1 pace team in the league. So there's another thing that Utah definitely likes to do is run, especially at home. The over is hitting 55.5% of their games. Another thing that they can do to kind of disrupt the Celtics team. It helps the over, and it might keep them close. So, yeah, Drew Holiday is definitely the spot that I have the highest chance of making final plays on here. But Utah plus the points and the over are things that I'm considering. But if I wasn't a Celtics fan, I actually might hit this one, which is crazy. All right, Phoenix taking on Cleveland. Phoenix has won, a couple games that are now not the best of competition, but Cleveland, Orlando, Clippers, and Sacramento, they've lost 3 straight games. They're still on the road here, and I will say they have a couple more road games, so they're just in a weird, tough situation here, but something tells me Cleveland bounces back here in terms of getting a win. This Phoenix team, I don't think is going to be able to hang all that well from the perimeter. Last 10 games, in fact, we can just show you on the dashboard. Guys, to get access to this dashboard, GuyBostonSports.com, become a member. Just follow the link in the pinned comment. There'll be another link like on the final plays that helps you get right to it. So if you want access to the dashboard each and every day, in which you get every game broken out in a visual format so you don't have to go to a bunch of different websites, go ahead and check this out. But Phoenix right here is what I'm looking at. So you see, obviously, Cleveland 5th in terms of above the break. Now, I have a theory we'll talk about in a second about how Cleveland needs to return to dominant form. They need to do something, but let's start with how they've been playing. They're shooting a lot of threes. Phoenix hasn't been stopping a lot of threes. You can even see it right here, right? 21st on the season. They're allowing 38% to their opponents there as well. And what's good to note is that this is a Cleveland team that seems to prioritize the catch and shoot a lot more than the pull-up, right? Phoenix cannot seem to stop the catch and shoot. They're very good against the pull-up. So, okay, there we go. And also in isolation, no one runs it more than Cleveland. You can see that down here. Phoenix very, very much struggling against the isolation. I think this is a Cleveland spot, laying the 8 points for sure. I think they get right. And what I said about, like, they're just doing something wrong, and they are. They're changing how they were playing. This has turned into a team that is, like, exclusively checking threes. This Cleveland team was so good and is still so good because they have the ability to score down low and shoot from 3. They had the ability, which seems like it's gone for whatever reason, but they had the ability to, if you're good defensively, we'll hit our threes. If you're good on the perimeter, interior defense, if you're good in the interior defense, we'll shoot our threes. If you're good on the perimeter, we'll take it down low. They've kind of abandoned the take it down low mentality, which they're going to need coming into the playoffs. So maybe they're just, resting guys and taking it easy because of the playoffs and they want to be healthy, but they got to return to form there for sure. But give me Cleveland minus the 8 points. In terms of a total, I think this one goes under. Cleveland, I would assume, says, okay, we'll make our threes, sure, but we're going to lock down. We have good defenders on this team, and we've lost 3 straight games. We can't let, this team get away from us. And Phoenix's offense is definitely inconsistent. Like, sure, they have 2 really good games against Toronto and Chicago. They scored 96 that game before against LA. And Cleveland's defense has allowed 130 plus to both the Clippers and Sacramento in back-to-back games. You're telling me that locker room isn't saying, like, hey, the way we win this one is, sure, we got to hit our shots, but if we allow 130 to our opponents, we're cooked anyways. No, they're going to lock it in. In terms of player props, I guess the one sort of thought of going to would be to target that catch and shoot type situation, which would be, I would say, I guess I could look at probably a look at Max Strus. I mean, some of his lines are going to be a little inflated and whatnot just because of how he's been playing, but I don't mind Max Strus. I also don't mind Darius Garland. He's been kind of shaky. I think that we can all admit that, but I do like the idea of him in isolation and coming off kind of the pick and roll and whatnot. So I don't mind him to go out there and get his, I think his line is at 18.5. Wouldn't mind that. I think Max Strus may be a look before that. Right now, his line, let me get an updated line for you guys too. I hate when I bring up lines and I don't have the exact number to speak to. So Max Strus, his line is 9.5 points. Yeah, for plus money. I think this is a good spot. Last time he played them, he had 9 points. That was this year. The time before, they had 9 points as well. But really what we want is quantity from him, right? He hit 3 threes out of his 8. Lately, he's been shooting the ball a decent amount, right? So he's been shooting the ball from 3 like 12, 10 times a game. If we get those, I like it. So I think that's a good matchup for Max Strus. It is interesting that he's been kind of crushing it, and now all of a sudden we have a 9.5 point spread for plus money, but maybe that's because Mobley's been injured, Garland's been out, Mitchell's been out on any given night, so maybe that's why it's kind of back down there. But yeah, it could be a good look there. I also don't mind his over 2.5 threes. Like, it would be a flyer, but catch and shoot should be a good spot for him, I guess, in this one. Denver taking on Portland. You probably look at that and you say, why is that line where it is? Well, take a wild guess. No Jokic. Murray's questionable, Brown's questionable, so is Aaron Gordon. Now, on the other side, you still have no DeAndre Ayton, no Robert Williams, Jeremy Grant, doubtful. So, yeah, no kidding, there's going to be some opportunity for Denver still to score inside, with the likes of, I guess, Michael Porter Jr., Aaron Gordon. But we're going to want to wait those ones out. I don't mind Denver still, plus the points here, maybe even just on the money line simply. Because I think that they are, even with Jokic out, they still do have a couple different ways that they can probably get this thing done. being able to score inside against Portland being one of those, but then also just targeting the outside. Portland's defense on the perimeter has been actually pretty impressive, but over the last few games, it's started to look a little bit worse. They're really locking up the corners, but above the break, they very much struggle. And I do think that we could see some above the break action from Denver, especially with the offense being sucked out of the paint. But I think that they could score in the paint as well. Don't get me wrong. Overall, this is a Denver team that, they don't run a ton of pick and roll, especially without Jokic, I guess. But when they do, 4th in terms of effective field goal percentage and 8th in terms of score percentage, 30th in terms of score percentage defensively is Portland. So if we just see a ton of pick and roll, they should be able to score at ease, right? And I don't trust this Portland team to be able to score back on them, hoping that this defense kind of kicks into gear for Denver. So, yeah, obviously no Jokic makes this team terrible, but I'm sitting here saying I don't really think Portland's all that great. And I've been likened to take the opposite of Portland when they're on these little streaks. They've now won 3 straight games. They're feeling themselves, all that, right? They have Boston on deck. And I know it's a couple days, but they might be seeing that being like, we got a beast coming in town. We got Denver, then we got Boston. Whereas this is a Nuggets team that says, let's just do our best without Jokic, right? I think I like them on the money line tonight. I think you can get plus 110, plus 105 right now still. In terms of player props, yes, I said you could target some of the perimeter for Denver, but I'm actually going to go to a guy that has cashed for us multiple times this year. I kind of like Tamani Kamara here. Over PRA, maybe points plus rebounds as well. No Jokic in there. I think he's going to get, first off, the opposition, no Jokic, get some more rebound opportunities, but obviously I love him, and I've said it before, when no Jeremy Grant is playing. Like, they do some similar things, and without Jeremy Grant, he plays closer to the hoop, and he should be able to get a decent amount of rebounds in this one. Assists, yeah, we're just kind of hoping for some assists that come by happenstance. I mean, if you like his assists, he's had 4 of his last 5 games, he's hit the over in his assists, and you're getting plus 150 for over 2.5. So if you want to even just split it up, sure. I would say I'm including everything PRA because it's kind of like what I said with Jaden McDaniels. Like, it's going to mix it up for the entire game here. So I like him. We didn't talk about a total yet in this one. Without Jokic, this offense should struggle for Denver. But I'm not like a total buy-in type on this Portland team doing it again. Like, we've ever since that long streak where, we started that train, we were on it, and then I was like, it's over. And then they just went on that run. They've had a couple of these little blips on the radar where they look really good and then just like kind of fall. This could be one of those where the defense is not hanging in there. Tough one for the total. I think ultimately I'm going to lean towards an under. I'll lean towards it over for the sole reason that I do think that, no Jokic in there. If Portland does need to score inside, they probably can. And I already mentioned I think Denver can score from the outside. So I'll lean towards the over, but probably only pegging it at like 226, 227. That marginal, you know what I mean? All right, we got Memphis taking on the Clips. No Ja Morant still. Brandon Clark also out. On the other side of things, no major injuries to note. This Clippers team, when healthy, I do give them a lot of credit. Like, they have some serious quality wins, and they've won 7 of their last 8 games here. They've beat some good teams. Detroit, New York, I think those were at home, but they beat Sacramento. They beat Cleveland, right? They put up a good number against when Miami's defense was playing some good defense. So, yeah, I don't think that this Memphis team is all that much to talk about without Ja Morant. Head-to-head here, they played, about a month and a half ago, and the Clippers still beat them, and that was a healthier, I want to say, actually, Ja Morant may not have played in that, so don't quote me on it, but I almost remember that he didn't, but I don't have the fact in front of me. But either way, they still beat them, even if it was the same situation, beat them by 14. The Clippers are at home yet again here. We know Memphis is going to try and get into the paint. Clippers are pretty damn good at defending the paint. It's tough for me to make an argument against this Clippers team. I think the one direction that you can go in if you want to pivot away from just like Clippers minus 6.5 and forget it, I could kind of consider a Memphis team total under, because I think the Clippers will make it tough for Memphis. Memphis may be able to keep it to within 6 points, but right now you can get under 121.5 for this Memphis team. I don't think that that's necessarily going to be the other. Under 115.5 is going to be the number. I don't think it's going to be the easiest time for them to go out there and get to 116. But that being said, though Memphis hasn't had Ja Morant, they have had 120 plus games plenty. But they've played Portland, Sacramento, Miami, Cleveland, Utah, Phoenix. Not exactly defenses that are kind of clicking right now like the Clippers. Like, the Clippers have allowed under 110 points to, I want to say, like almost 7 of their last 10 games. That's just a fake number, but just from like guessing, like, they've been playing some real defense. So yeah, I'm going to lean towards Memphis team total under. That's kind of a hybrid of both the total and obviously just kind of fading Memphis and backing the Clippers to some degree. In terms of player props, we did have one here. What do we? Chris Dunn yet again. He killed us last time, but I like his over in assists. And then I also don't mind Kawhi Leonard's PRA. I think that this is a really good matchup for him overall. Just against this Memphis team. He's hit this in 3 straight games. If you like his points, sure, that's fine as well, but he should be able to score in the pick and roll. If he has to hit his spot up, I think he might hit a couple threes today. And, Memphis obviously being a team that likes to push the pace, Kawhi Leonard can run in transition too. So I think it's a very good matchup for him as well. But guys, it's going to wrap it up for today's show. Thank you very much for spending some time with me. If you did enjoy the show, go ahead and hit that like button, hit that subscribe button as well. Go ahead and comment 40 if you made it this far into the video. 40 to the very end. You're a real one. I do truly appreciate that. And, I love seeing the recurring usernames that are like, yeah, I watch every minute. I'm like, wow, you are a real one. Appreciate the hell out of you guys. We'll catch you guys in the next one, right? Peace out.